Good evening, and thank you guys for being here. This is our deacon-led service tonight. If you guys were not here this morning, we installed 35 deacons this morning, agreeing to serve as deacons here for the next 2 years. This is something that's been a practice here at North MacArthur for a while now. Every 2 years, we have a time where we reevaluate the current deacons, add on new men to come in and serve as deacons, and then also it gives people that have been serving that need to step away, a time to step away from their service. So we have a lot of changeover that happens. But that happened this morning. We had 35 men that were installed as deacons. Some of those men have been serving as deacons. Some of them are new now to North MacArthur as deacons. We had a lot of turnover this time. A lot of times things continue to run smoothly since people stay in the same positions that they previously were. However, whatever happened this year, we had a lot of people changing, whether it be some deacons have stepped down after serving for a number of years. Some have moved. Some have been added on as staff members, and then there's also been some that have actually reduced the amount of places they were serving. So we've had a lot of turnover, and we have a lot of new positions and a lot of new people in these positions. So I would say that to say, over the next few weeks, if things seem a little bumpy, if things aren't quite running as smoothly as normal, it's because we're getting used to some new jobs. So bear with these different ministries here at North MacArthur as we transition into this new phase of having new leadership in different roles. But tonight, we are actually going to hear from a couple of different deacons, and these are areas that we felt maybe some ministries that we wanted to highlight. Some of them are ministries that we would like to see grow. Some of them are ministries we see growing and need more exposure and more work in. And so we will be having Gary Wooster coming up speaking. He is over hospital visitation and seniors ministry. He'll be focused mostly on seniors ministry, but he may sneak in a few words on hospital visitation as he's up here. But that's an area, seniors ministry is an area that we see a lot of work that's going to be coming up where we're going to be doing a lot of new things in that area. Jeff Weaver then will come up and speak on benevolence. He's also a deacon over the college group and Welcome Home, but we've asked him to speak on benevolence, which is a tough task since he's a new deacon to benevolence. So a lot of things he's going to be telling you about tonight, he's new to as well. So that should be fun for him. And then last, we're going to have Roy Greenway get up and give a talk about our prison ministry that has we've had here for a little bit, but it's definitely grown and is taking on a new look as he's the new deacon over our prison ministry, and he's got a lot of great ideas, but with that, he needs a lot of help and a lot of volunteers, and he'll get more into that. So we'll start off with Gary Wooster talking about our seniors ministry.
Don't worry, my talk's not this long. It's just it's the book I use to kind of keep track of what I'm supposed to be doing and who I've done it with. I'm Gary Wooster. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about this activity. In October of 2024, the elders here came up with a new missionary activity. Basically, they've called it or labeled the service as a seniors services. Now, I think that's a bit of a misnomer from the standpoint that we won't turn you down if you're 64 and you need some help. Okay. In any event, we came up on a Sunday night like this. We talked about that, and we had a decent response at that point in time. We actually have 14 different families or individuals volunteered to do various activities and actions for this mission statement. The jobs that we have, or what we think we have, okay, include rides to church and elsewhere, basically housework, visits and meals, grocery shopping, cleaning house, light cleaning house, light bulbs, yard work, cooking needs, cooking meals, home maintenance, moving furniture, okay. We need to enlist the younger, stronger group for that, okay, activity. some electrical work, car maintenance, oil changes, and home safety issues if you have such an issue, and even had some volunteer to do games. And I know that doesn't seem like much of a missionary topic, but if you're lonely and desperate for that situation, to have one of your brothers and sisters in Christ come spend some time with you, be it a game or whatever it is a great value for you. Okay. In all honesty, I'd have to tell you that I'm disappointed. Okay. Not by the volunteers per se, but by the lack of number of requests for the services. Okay. We've had very few people request our help and our aid. That needs to be fixed. Try to think about, well, why is that happening? Why are people not doing that? And I came up with a couple of thoughts. Certainly, it can be embarrassing, okay? You know, if you're tall, it doesn't work, it can be embarrassing to ask somebody to come help you, okay? But we won't tell anyone. This is an anonymous activity. You know, if you don't know how to throw the circuit breaker switch in your garage, we won't put that out, even though that has happened. Okay, and I'm the guilty party. It's anonymous from a two-way street. It's anonymous that you asked for help, and I think it's going to remain anonymous that someone helped. Okay, we want them to derive the benefit from the Lord, not from establishing themselves as some great, outstanding helper. It can be difficult to ask for help because we tend to be self-sufficient. And I'm guilty of pride as probably as much as any of you. I hate to admit that I don't know why the lights won't come on, okay? Or why the faucet won't quit leaking, okay? You can only gain so much from watching YouTube videos on how to fix something, and then you realize, I don't know how to fix this, okay? I also have had people say that they didn't want to request help because they didn't want to bother anyone. And I'd like to remind you of our scriptural obligations. Romans 12:10 says, "Be devoted to one another. In brotherly love, give preference to one another." And I certainly think this is an activity that could be under the heading of brotherly love. 1 Peter 1:22, "Since you have in obedience to the truth purified your souls for a sincere love of the brethren, love one another from the heart." Fervently love one another from the heart. Okay. This is not like the Good Samaritan. Okay. Luke 10th, and I won't read all that to you. You know the story very well. It's not like we can find senior citizen members of North MacArthur Church of Christ lying out here on the MacArthur Avenue who've been attacked by robbers or anything. But so what does that mean? That means we need for you to call. We need for you to have a willingness to call and let us know. And of course, you can call or you can text. Part of our response to the lack of activity was to get added to the bulletin. On the back side of the bulletin, if you look there, you can see where there's a midsection that says Senior Helpline, 405-831-4206. Call or text. Okay. And we'll talk about texting here in a minute, but there's an opportunity there, and we'll try to make other opportunities available. And again, you don't have to be a senior to call. Okay. Kristen monitors our text line and will inform us if any of you wish to have some services performed. I have to say there are some limitations to the service and activities. We can't do anything that requires certification. We don't have a certified plumber or a certified electrician there. Certainly that's partially due to liability issues as well as legal issues themselves. Okay, I like to think of it as something that a homeowner might be asked to do or expected to do is within the capability of our volunteers. That's what we're aiming for. And it's not necessarily on a regular basis. I don't think that it's appropriate if you have a teenage 18-year-old grandchild, okay, who's completely able to mow the grass, that you ought to ask the volunteer services to mow your grass every Friday night. Okay, that's not what we're going for. Okay. Obviously, we don't want to participate in anything that's dangerous, okay? We have a rule at our house, and it's the Sylvia rule. That's my wife, okay? All of our ladders are now locked up in the garage and secured, okay? I'm not allowed to get on ladders without asking first, okay? And I'm not allowed to be above the third rung unless she's present to administer the activity, okay? We don't want seniors falling off of roofs either, okay? So if it's a significant roofing job, we're not the people to turn to, okay? And we don't want any electrocutions, okay? No one here is going to be pulling the meter base to shut down the electricity to your house, okay? Now, we need your help. We desperately need your help, not only as volunteers, which we'd be glad to have more than the 14 we have currently working, and we'd like to have, if you wish to do that, we'll provide ways to contact us. We will not ask any volunteer to do something that they're uncomfortable doing. So if we get you to ask you to do something and you maybe over-extrapolated or overestimated your capacity, you may need to say, hey, I really want a different assignment than that, and that's okay. We won't ask anyone to do anything beyond their means, okay? We also need people to request. I think that's the weakness of the service so far. In that regard, I want to reiterate that it's anonymous service. I want it to be two-way anonymous. I want it to be anonymous that you asked for help, and anonymous that you were the helper. Okay. To God be the glory, not to individuals. Okay. I do think this is a somewhat different ministry. There may be some things you'd be asked to do that may not be fun as such, and you reserve the right to say, no, I don't think I can handle that, and we'll find someone else to do it. John 13:34 through 35, a new covenant I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. 1 John 3:18, let us not love with words or speech, but actions and in truth. Highlighting the actions is what we want, okay? People involved, obviously Grant Morgan's over this deaconship as a coordinator. Dale Hartman also is coordinating with us. You can contact either Virgil Thurman or myself at any time regarding that activities that you need help with. I want to end this comment by saying that North Mac is very blessed. We have excellent ministers. We have good song leaders. We have an outstanding eldership. We have many talents in this congregation. We're very blessed. And I want to beseech you, as those who may need some help or have some way for us to show our love for you, to contact us and let us show you those talents. Even those of us that may be one-talent people are willing to cooperate and help you. I'd like to say a few closing words or add on a few words about the hospital ministry, the other ministry I have. We coordinate through our hospital ministry, Gary Rollins here, and generally make phone calls on Tuesday nights to people that are in the hospital and are expected to be in the hospital for a few more days longer to allow them to be visited. Most of our visitors currently have volunteered long ago, and they've kind of reached seniority or reached an age where they're the ones in the hospital that we need to go visit. Okay. So I'd like to have a younger group of people volunteer for that. It's very rewarding to visit someone. They feel very thankful to have a loving brother or sister come and talk with them for a while. It is caring for others. The burden is fairly light with that. We try to, and so far been pretty good about able to assign a visitation to one visitation per month. So it's not too ominous that you have to have, we're not going to ask you to go every day or several times a week or anything like that. So just one visit a month. We did have a sign-up board out on the activity roster out there, and it's kind of disappeared. We're going to try to find it again, but we will make available on the activity list a notebook for signing up for visitations again. If you're somewhat challenged by the internet and you're hesitant to try to manage that, it will make it easy for us senior citizens to volunteer. Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
So benevolence. God has been very clear about our need to be looking out for the needs of others. Galatians 6 talks about every opportunity we have, we need to be looking out for opportunities to do good, and especially to those of our family. James 1 talks about undefiled religion is helping the widows and orphans and keeping ourselves unstained from the world. And then Matthew 25, I think about that a lot, that story or parable, however you want to describe it, of the separation of the sheep and the goats. And the criteria for that separation is not necessarily doctrinal purity, although that's important. It's not church attendance, that's important, or contributions, that's important too. But we're reminded that there are a lot of folks out there struggling, those who are sick and who are strangers, who are alone in prison, those that hunger and those that thirst. And so we need to be aware of that there are a lot of folks struggling out there. And so we have a benevolence program. Now, I think probably when we look at those scriptures, our first call is for each one of us individually to be very actively doing and engaging in that. And this is the Sunday night crowd, so I'm confident that if we could actually we'd find out there's incredible things being done individually in this congregation. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. But there's also a role for the church. And so the elders have decided, and they've set aside funds for that. And I think maybe what I can talk about this evening is not in specifics, but just to share with you some thoughts on what the church is doing to help those of our family when they're struggling, and the significance of it. And just to give you a sense of what you're contributing to this congregation is being used in a very caring way. What I would say, just in general, on any given month, the congregation is probably assisting 4 or 5 individuals in this congregation with a variety of needs. And it can be anything. It can be a variety of things. It can be maybe their rent, maybe with utilities. Some folks get in a situation where the utilities are turned off, so you have to get that turned back out, put back in place, helping out with gas. And but just to let you know that your congregation is your leadership and the staff and everyone's very active in helping out those in our number here who are struggling. One other thing that we do with benevolence, and it's a little more higher profile. You see that when we pack the pantry. That's probably, I was talking to Kristen on Wednesday, that's probably something we'll be doing here in a few weeks. I don't know how quickly we need to. The bags are being used up. That's actually open to anybody. And so the folks come up here pretty regularly, and the staff they take care of making sure that when the folks come in, they give them that bag of groceries. And one thing that Kristen commented to me about was that the list on the bag, there's an intent behind that. And so she asked that when we're going and shopping, that we kind of stick to the list. That list is designed for a lot of the folks that come in and that we help do not have full kitchens that they can work with and the resources to put a full meal together. And so a lot of that stuff that's put together is kind of designed for folks that are in a hard way and they need to put a meal together in a more practical way. So anyway, that'll be happening here in just a little bit. So that's our benevolence program. And I know that's what I was asked to talk about, but there's a couple other programs that I'm involved with that I'd kind of like to share with you as well. And that's welcome. Oh, and I didn't look at the clock before I got up, so I'm sorry. You asked me to talk, so this is what you get. You could ask, there's other guys you could ask, but anyway, so welcome home. That program, so what we got is, right now there are 5 teams of about 5 or 6 families, couples, individuals, and these teams host meals, and they're on varying schedules. Some do it every 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. But what they're designed to do is the host families, they host a meal on a Sunday afternoon, and then they invite about an equal number of new members. And then the idea behind that, and then we encourage, and those welcome home teams are encouraged to ask folks, even if they've been to other ones, to keep asking them. And the idea, hopefully, is that for our new members, they're introduced to. Now here's 20 folks they're introduced to, and then here's another 20, and another 20, and another 20, and slowly but surely they are integrated. And so when they're walking down the halls or down in the classrooms, they're seeing faces and names that they recognize as opposed to just a bunch of strangers. So that's welcome home, and I'm always looking for more teams. And so if you're interested in being a part of that, let me know. The main thing that it really needs is all these teams need a leader. And so you need one or two of the families to really own the team and to be willing to coordinate and make sure it kind of keeps moving. And because if you don't, it tends to fizzle. That's what'll happen. And so if you'd like to do that, I'll probably ask you, well, would you like to lead the team? And so if you're interested in that, I'd love to talk to you about that. And then one other thing, and then I'll sit down, is Carrie and I have been here for about 5 years. And in that span of time, I think probably y'all can tell, if you look around, the number of folks in our membership in their 20s is growing. And it's in a very healthy way. And we have our college-age kids. And then we have our young professionals, and then we have our young marrieds and the young families. And I just wanted to comment about and acknowledge and recognize what Tyler and Natalie are doing with this group of young people. This makes for a very, very healthy church, and they're doing a wonderful job with that. The college group, I normally am greeting folks coming in the auditorium, and their class tends to run a little long. But they're walking in, and it's this sea of kids coming through, and that's just that's a very encouraging thing. And I think it's kind of nice, maybe for the rest of us, to just kind of be aware of what they're doing, and they're the ones doing it. I get my name on something, but they're the ones doing it. So anyway, those are the things I'm doing.
My name is Roy Greenway. I've been going into prisons, my mother would be glad to say, always with a get out of jail card free, but I've been going into prisons for 35, 40 years, and I want to tell you a little bit about the opportunities that this congregation has and has used in the past to accomplish these goals. These are prison evangelism activities by the North MacArthur members. Started some time ago with Jerry Way at Memorial Road going into the Oklahoma County Jail, baptizing people, and then Kelly White would come along and give Bible correspondence courses to those who were baptized. You know the Bible correspondence courses, there are some that are general, some that are more designed for inmates. Many of them think they are destined for hell, and there's one of the track series that says, you're not destined for hell, you have an option here. But there are all sorts of Bible materials that are available. Why did I throw up this slide? One of the inmates at the Hinton facility takes these classes, goes back into his room, hand writes the entire Bible correspondence course out on paper. Then he fills out the questions with his handwritten stuff, and then goes back and fills out the actual thing that Kelly mailed him. That's learning. That's not just reading and responding to something. Mail into the facilities can be quite difficult. I'll explain to that a little bit later. And so just realize that Bible correspondence courses and anything paper-wise mailed into the facilities can be difficult. When we're interacting with inmates, there's a mentoring thing. He's just helping them with life struggles. You'll see some of the questions that have been asked recently. Teaching could be anything from a trade craft to how to live when they get free. And obviously the evangelizing, we're always targeting toward this, but a lot of times you need to make friendships, establish yourself, and that's why the mentoring and teaching is so available. These guys have been in for a long time. This particular gentleman here is no longer with us. He passed away a couple of years ago, but since about age 25, he's been in prison. He got 9,999 year sentence, and I don't asked me to explain the logic of that. But anyway, it's there. You'll find guys of all different ages, all different backgrounds. I have run into people with a PhD, earned PhD in Bible studies at the U.S. Military Disciplinary Barracks in Leavenworth. Probably knew 10 times as much Bible as I ever will. But still, we all have our foibles. There's all sorts of education levels from the low end to the high end. I want to talk a little bit about, really quickly, some successes that have come through the prison work. Clyde Thompson. This is not a man I ever knew, but his story has been made into a DVD, The Meanest Man in Texas. His dad was a Church of Christ preacher. In his book that I got these quotes from, he calls him Daddy. Clyde shot and killed 2 men, and at age 19 years old, in 1931, he was sentenced to death. He never obeyed the gospel before going into prison. His daddy gave him a Bible. He returned it, says not much more than ink on paper. He didn't believe it, didn't think it had anything to do with him, and here it is. Obviously, that's not the end of the story. But while in prison, he stabbed 2 other men to death and led 4 escape attempts where other men were killed in that escape attempt. He talks in his book about 8 died so I could live, and compares and contrasts that to the comment that 1 man died so that all may live. Throughout his process, he ended up in some very difficult situations. Isolation, the first inmate in Texas to ever be isolated, and the isolation was in a morgue, which was 6 concrete slabs out in the sun. And in Eastland, Texas area, that's kind of hot. He got more interested in the Bible, got a Bible. His dad had died by this time. And once he was returned to the normal facility, he heard a radio broadcast by P.D. Wilmoth. He knew then who to contact to help him with this. He contacted Brother Wilmoth. Baptism occurred 6 days before he was to be executed. His comment in the book that just kind of gets me going: unfortunately, no Christian came to encourage me. We can do better than that. There's a picture of him. This is the cover for his book that he wrote, EX83. At that time, Texas was executing people, some of which had no family to claim their body. And this is a cemetery right in here that those unclaimed bodies were placed in. He was given EX83 shortly before he was to be executed. There's an interesting picture in the book. He's standing between the tombstone for 82 and the tombstone for 84, thinking that that's where he should be. He didn't. Ultimately, he got out, became a minister. One of his jobs was the Manuelito Navajo Children's Home, where we have some association with in this congregation. He was the head of that for a while. While there, met an 18-month-old Navajo daughter that they adopted. This is her obviously much later in life. But after his release, he worked with Southwestern Christian College in Terrell for several years. He was a minister of various congregations, including the Manuelito Navajo Children's Home. And he ended up as a prison minister going into the Lubbock County Jail for Sunset Church of Christ there in Lubbock. He died on Sunday morning just prior to going in to that service. From 18 years old, that was a short variety of his life. I want to talk about somebody else now. This is a guy I've worked with. I want to introduce you to his mom here in just a little bit. She's sitting back here between Bradley and Rhonda. But in the class I held at Hinton, or still holding at Hinton, I was encouraging the guys to start memorizing Scripture. I asked for a couple of verses. He came up and said, could I memorize a chapter? Sure. That's not a very tough question. I told him he would. We selected 1 Corinthians 13, and then I called Apologetics Press and said, here's the situation. Do you have something we could give him as a reward for this? And this was prior to the paper cut down going into the facility. Ultimately, we gave him the Defending the Faith, the big, nice study Bible that many of us would want to have. He memorized 1 Corinthians 13, the whole chapter, a psalm, and I really can't remember which psalm, Hebrews chapter 13, and the Excel Still More conference that is held here in Oklahoma in January of this year. We're a sponsoring congregation to that. He memorized and quoted Romans 12 and Romans 13, and he filmed it in the prison. This is him right outside the chapel hall, and that's quite a bit of a memorization. I couldn't do that. I don't know how many of y'all could do that, but that's beyond my memorization. He's working on Ephesians, the whole book of Ephesians. He wants to record it for the next Excel Still More workshop that's coming up here this coming year. He is making a lot of improvement, learning and adapting to Scripture. He started at 18 as well. He had long term. He's going to be in for a few more years. He is suffering right now from vicarious trauma. This is a term that Mel Latore told me about, okay? And he counsels other inmates on the difficulties that they're having while in prison. That's the vicarious trauma. He is receiving so much trauma himself from just living vicariously through the stories that his fellow inmates tell him. It's hard. But he's trying to do his best. He is very competent, very capable young man. We and his mother can be very proud of what he's doing. His mother's with us tonight, like I said, right back here. I hope you'll stop and meet her and congratulate her on what good son she has. Obviously, she and all of us would want a little different, but he is making a great start of where he is. There's another family. I think we all know Bradley and Sarah. They're about to go to Bear Valley, and they're gathering support at this time. I first met Bradley when he was in segregation cell at Hinton. There was a thick steel door between the two of us, and we talked through a little crack, not a crack, but a gap in the steel door covered by glass. And he's with us tonight, sitting right here, planning to go to Bear Valley. There's a lot of good that can come from prison work. We need some more help. We intently thank you for the spiritual, emotional, biblical, all sorts of help that the congregation has provided already. That's immeasurably good. Bradley and Morgan were cellmates. That's an unusual feature you don't see all the time. Methods of interacting with with inmates can be Bible correspondence courses, classes inside a facility. I go in Lexington on Monday, Lexington on Tuesday, Hinton on Wednesday, Thursday to Clara Waters, and on the way over here tonight, excuse me, a man from Kingfisher is calling me and telling me that there's an opportunity for Gary Wooster and I to go into El Reno, possibly an opportunity, on Thursday. Isn't that what I said? So there are other things developing. If you want to go into a facility, let me know. There's background checks. There's all sorts of stuff. I've been going in for 40 years or thereabouts. I've never felt unsafe. That may be something you're concerned about. I haven't experienced it. This is my classroom at Hinton. It holds about 200. I typically will have 50 to 75, and they're on any one night? Here's a note from one of the guys. My name is James. Prison is a lonely place. There are some inmates here who would really love to hear from you. Even myself, I have things about the Bible that don't make any sense, or just to have someone to speak with. Or maybe you have had a bad day and need to speak with someone. We are here just waiting for you. How about that? One of my favorite scriptures is Matthew 4:19 or Mark 1:17. How about you? Inmates are very straightforward. Don't be shy. There are certain inmates that want correspondence and will respond to correspondence, and we can use correspondence in improvement. We have identified a bunch of those. Now we need some help in putting them together. Here are some messages. How do you start to trust people again? These are questions that I've asked inmates and said, if you are talking with someone from the congregation, what is the topic you would like to talk with them about? Mother lost her brother, then 5 days later, her sister died. Can you pray that I have strength to keep pushing through and stay focused on Christ? On staying faithful to myself and to the Lord? How does one find a good church when we get out? These are some of the questions that you would get. If you want to do this, I will give you these little pieces of paper that I get will have the inmate's name and the way to contact them on it. Some give you a whole story, and it's difficult sometimes. If you want to interact with these inmates, e-messaging, similar to email but not quite, is utilized by the Oklahoma Department of Corrections through an outside third-party vendor. This minimizes the paper that goes into the facility, because many relatives and friends of inmates will take a piece of paper, soak it in drugs, spray it with bug killer, and then send it in as just a typical correspondence between family members that gets drugs into the facility. They sell an inch by inch square for $10, roll it up and smoke it. Prison's trying to stop the drugs getting in. Right now, there's a hold on paper getting in. If you jump through enough hoops, you can get some Bible correspondence courses in. But all these electronic messages can go in. You can have the question that the inmate has asked in front of you, respond to the inmate, and start a dialogue. This is how you'd want to do it. You set up an account with Securus, and all this is on a handout in the foyer outside. You can use a congregation email if you so choose. And if you're concerned about security, use a crow name. I particularly would suggest that for females. I would suggest using a male name, and just a little protection there. But the congregation will do this, and I think it will work very well. Once you're in there, you set up a contact. You put his name, Oklahoma Department of Corrections, and one will pop up. You say, yes, that's him, and then you go over and put your message in. You have to attach a stamp for the message to go, 25 cents for your message to go. And you attach a stamp for them to send a 25-cent message back. So a round-trip message is 50 cents, not that cost prohibitive. You buy stamps here on the website. You have to go in and put in your credit card and do all that stuff to set up your account. And if that is a difficulty, let us know. We can cover some of those expenses. But like I say, 2 stamps for each round-trip communication, one there and one back. I appreciate this opportunity. I've well extended my time. You only got the short version. But there's a lot of good that can be done from this congregation sitting at home, and I can see easily a family having a discussion over what an inmate request is and say, how should we respond to this? And the family discussing it, and then responding. I have a lot of communications, a lot of teaching opportunities for families. If you want to go in with me, I'd love to have it. Gary and I are in the process, like I say, getting some more of those opportunities letting up. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And yes, again, if you're wanting to get more involved with the prison ministry, Roy will be set up at the information table after services. He has some more information back there. And I can agree that was the short version. Me and Jeremy had the long version a few weeks ago. So that definitely was the short version. There's a lot more going on there. And the other ministries as well, if you are wanting to get more involved, please see those guys. We have so many more deacons here that we could have spent all night up here going over what they're doing. There's a lot of men doing a lot of great works. Tim gave me a little bit of a heart attack this morning when he said, what if all 35 resigned? That would kind of scare me if that happened, because then I'm going to be really busy and my part-time job would get really crazy. But along those lines, though, if we did have an area where something was falling through the cracks, this congregation would pick up the slack. And I actually witnessed that this morning. We had an area where there's been a little bit of a gap between the old deacon now no longer being here at North Mac, and the new deacon hasn't quite stepped into that role yet. And I didn't realize there's a spot where we didn't have people ready to serve. But I came here this morning, I saw, wait, there's people doing that job. And I went up and talked to them, and they said, well, we noticed no one was here, so we decided to do it. That's a great way that our congregation gets in and gets the job done, whether it's their job or not. If they see it, they get in and do it. But with that, if you could let us know what areas you want to help out, if you get to the next slide, we would love for you to fill out an involvement form. I actually heard this morning, this was brought up in one of the Bible classes. I did not correspond with that teacher, but I'm glad they plugged this, that there is an involvement form out there. If you want to know how to get more involved, this would be a good place to start, is on the web page or on the church app. It's on the very front page, fourth place down, involvement form. Click on that, and there's a little place that you can click on what areas you would like to work, help these ministries out. If you do not know how to use the app, or you're not computer savvy, come get me and I will fill one out for you. I can do that from my phone, but we will get you put to work. We have 700 members here. I think we've had 230 involvement forms filled out. That's not even half. So if you have not filled one out, get out there and do it. If you filled one out 10 years ago and you want to update it, get out there and do it. I actually had somebody recently say, stop contacting me about this. I don't want to help in this area. I'm helping in other areas. I'm like, okay, that's great. And so I just adjusted their involvement form to do that. So if you have signed up in the past and you're like, why are they contacting me about this? Maybe you accidentally clicked on something you didn't mean to. But please get out and fill out your involvement form. That way we can help these ministries that we are doing a lot of good work here and help get them supplied with volunteers and help. So along those lines, we appreciate all the deacons, especially the ones that got up and spoke tonight, but we appreciate all of them and the hard work that they are doing and will continue to do. We also tonight would just like to end our service like we usually do by offering a time for invitation. So if you are here and you have a need, if you have not been baptized and want to do so, if you need prayers, if you need one of the elders to sit down and talk with you, we always have that opportunity at the end of our services. We always have time outside of services to do that as well. So if you have anything you need, please come forward while we stand and sing.